I'm on a really exciting journey at the moment. The one thing I've learned and understanding is that discipline is the key if you want to be successful in sport and successful in life. There's plenty of hardship in my upbringing. There was no money. There was lots of violence, and sport saved my life in such a huge way.
You know, you became one of the greatest rugby league forwards of all time.
It was regarded as the best sporting team in the world for a long time. I was involved in 28 finals, won 22 of them, and won 6-7 championships as well. I trained aggressively and I recovered aggressively. It was like this clandestine group that were trying to be better than everybody else. As soon as I started working with the girls, it was just so exciting. You put group blokes together and they find their hierarchy and they compete and they want to compete with each other. Women have to find the commonality in the group, so they have to get on. They want to be connected to each other. With the women, it's like, we do another half an hour. What about doing this a bit more? You're going, oh, this is great. Don't say things, do things.
I love that.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode on our Lessons from the Game podcast. I'm here with my co-host Ben Pegner that will be introducing our guest.
Hey G, great to be here again. Today I'm really excited that we've got Denis Betts with us. Denis is a rugby legend, but first he was a rugby league legend. Played for Great Britain numerous times, was the most capped forward of all time. Played for Wigan, made his debut when he was 17, and then went on to win every trophy possible, World Club Challenges, the Challenge Cup numerous times, then Super League. He had a spell playing for the Auckland Warriors in New Zealand, and then he transitioned to becoming, an incredible coach, both in Union and in League. And along the way, he coached a World Cup final. He played in 2 World Cup finals. So in terms of guests, I'm really excited to have him on. He's just, when I think of guys who have got so much value to add to every listener, he's one of the guys that I immediately think of, just a growth mindset, puts his mind to something. And, so I could go on, obviously, talking more about him, but Denis, it's great to have you here, mate.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that intro there. That's really nice of that, Ben, as well. I think it follows on the line when I sat in the car with you and told you everything that I'd done. You're like, all right, I remember that.
Yeah, mate.
I think those words, I think I might have oversold myself a little bit.
No. I mean, for our listeners, because a lot of our listeners, Guthrow, obviously a World Cup winner with the Springboks, and yourself, you guys have got so much in common because of you've both been, you displayed that growth mindset. You achieved a lot as players, but then you've gone on to coach as well, phenomenally, you in Union and in League, Union with Gloucester. So yeah, but there's so much we want to get into today. And excited to have you on, mate. Yeah, really thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a pleasure. I like talking coaching and I like talking.
So Denis, tell me, where are you at the moment? How's things your side? All good?
I'm on a really exciting journey at the moment. Like I say, I've been coaching now. I've been coaching longer than I played. I've had 23, 24 years coaching now. So I've got some good face cream. I grow a beard just to make sure I keep looking young. So it's 23 years. And it was, it must be it's just over a year ago now. I got asked if I would want to get involved at Wigan again.
Okay.
And knew the CEO very well, played with him, Chris Rodlinski. Doing a fantastic job there. They've got some really good ownership. They were going through some transitional stuff with changing owners as well. So they've just been taken over by a fellow called Mike Danson, who has got some great ambitions and he's from the town and he wants to do everything across the game, all the women's game, the men's game, the PDRL game, the wheelchair, everything that's involved. Not just in rugby side of things really, but he's got a great strength about what he wants to do for the town. And it was a conversation about just getting involved again with Chris Rodlinski. I was in between roles. I'd come out of another job like you do in most coaching roles, where I believed all the lies that I'd been told throughout 2 years at a club, and the ownership had just fell to pieces really. COVID hadn't helped. It was up at Newcastle. And I was sort of in between roles and not really sure where I was going to go to next. And the invitation to join as the women's head coach and be involved with the women's pathway throughout all the age groups, from like under 13s into the senior group. and I'd never coached them before. Like say, like most people as well. And this is like it's not dissonant to say. I saw rugby as both rugby union and rugby league and contact sports. I always saw them as men's games, and then only when you get involved you realise that rugby is just a game. It's just played by everybody, and it was something that sort of pricked me as well. I'm the father of five daughters as well, so it's not like I'm not there. So I know I have an idea of how women think a little bit because I've been subjected to persecution for most of my life, and so it was a strange step really. And as soon as I got involved, as soon as I started working with the girls, it was just so exciting, and their love and desire and ambition was so infectious. It was like I was just jumping into that. It was 2002 again. I'd just taken over at Wigan's Academy. I'd just retired from playing. I knew that I wanted to coach. I wasn't sure how to coach. I'd spent 17 years as a professional just looking after myself. I was part of a fantastic team, but my main drivers were about how fit, strong, ready I was to play and contribute to the team. So there was a real individual mindset. And then I stepped into the coaching role, and it was like I had these, and it was in charge of an under 18s group and an academy group, under 18s, under 20s. And all of a sudden I wasn't on my own anymore. I had nearly 30 other blokes to look after and try and guide. And it was daunting at first, then the excitement took off when you saw some changes and you saw some growth, and you saw that their love for the game that I loved, and that came back. It was, and I feel very fortunate because I don't think very many coaches get to have that feeling twice in their careers. They get it at the start, and when they get that really infectious understanding of why they want to coach and what they're involved with, and then they grow and they learn and they have to understand what they're doing next and how to actually, what skill acquisition is, and then how building teams looks like, and then working on individual level, working through mindsets, working through an understanding of what winning is and what winning looks like to the team and not just what the scoreboard says. It's that kind of growth that you go to. And I went right back to the start, and I just got this real buzz and excitement from working with these girls in the women's team, and it was. So I'm in a really strong place coaching-wise at the moment because, awesome. And I say this, and if they listen to this hopefully, and they'll see this. It's that it was a shock because my expectations of what they knew, they actually knew, were miles. So it was like, and I'd seen them play and watched them play, but they had any kind of structure and understanding of the game wasn't there. They just played, and that was exciting as well. They just loved to play. But when you started talking systems, and then you started talking about creating skills and forcing habits into them, then it became like, what are you talking about? So it was that's been a journey as well. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm in an exciting place at the moment. I'm in a good place.
Today's Lessons from the Game episode was possible thanks to the support of Harris Begley Financial Planning, headed up by former Blackheath player Matt Begley. They are the experts to speak to for tailored advice on investments, mortgages, insurance, and pensions, helping you plan for a future of financial security. So when you think money, think Harris Begley and head to www.harrisbegley.co.uk. Approver Quilter Financial Services Limited and Quilter Mortgage Planning Limited, March 2025. We're going to dive deep into that because we definitely want to touch base more on, what women's sports is all about and the challenges and what they go through. So we're definitely going to dive into that, Dennis. But we love to start each episode with a question, and the same question. Is there a lesson that you have learned from the game which you love as a player that you can share with young and aspiring athletes and coaches, whether it's in rugby or rugby league?
It's one of those real simple things as well. It's just honesty and just being good as, I don't mean that. I mean like be good at things that you want to achieve. Don't sort of like jump around. It's have the discipline, understand there's motivation and there's discipline, and there's like, it's hard to understand that discipline is not something that is easy. Some discipline is not something that just comes. It's those days when you can't be motivated. You can't say, I love this. This is what I want to do. And that be enough. You've got to have the discipline, understanding that getting up early or eating right and sleeping well, the game's just so different than it was when I first started. And the journey I've been on is that I was quite obsessive when I first started playing, and 16, 17, and I didn't drink. And it was a very strange in the 80s as well, and 90s, to be a professional sportsman, especially a professional rugby player, and not really be a drinker or a partier, and like a couple of times a week or after games. But I was pretty fixed, and I had some good role models in that sense as well. So I got caught up with some good people, and that kind of journey and understanding, spend time with people that are there to help you, not to make you laugh. Spend time with people that you feel that you want to emulate. And that was, I got really lucky. And I say lucky as well because I fell in with a couple of people who had this similar kind of thought process that I did. They were a little bit older. They had been on a little bit of a journey, but they was really determined. They had great discipline. They understand. And I didn't really know what discipline was in those days. It was just something like I say, it's become like a bit of a cliche now through things like this and through reading books and understanding what coaching is. In those days, it was you just seen as either a little bit mad or a little bit self-centered or a little bit like on your own just because you wanted to do the right thing every single time. And now it's seen as a real skill. In those days, it was seen as something that was a little bit different. And I actually argue when you look at the greats and you look at the people that are successful over a career, not over a year, not over a 6-month period, not even over a couple of years, those people that have had careers of 10, 15, 20 years, those people have had discipline. They've had an understanding of what it takes to be successful. And that success is not always measured in cups and wins. It's measured in like how your body feels, what your life looks like. Discipline gives you so much more than just a rugby. So I'd say the one thing I've learned and understanding is that discipline is the key if you want to be successful in sport and successful in life. Like my journey's been in sport. But I think when you look around, you see that there's a lot of discipline involved and also a little bit of luck. Again, it's one of those strange things along with sport and environments, and you'd like to be more successful than you actually will. Like say you're all right, go through, you won a World Cup and you've got a little bit of, I think there's a little bit of luck of being in the right place, right time and being in that group, that really successful group. So you get lucky because of the people around you as well as what the people that you're in. So that little bit of luck is really important.
Dennis,
read stories like luck is one of those things.
Sorry, mate. On that, I mean, because we could deep dive into so much because you've done so many things, and people often, they'll see the highlights of somebody like yourself, like I said in the beginning, But can you maybe, I don't know what the toughest times in your life were. Have they defined you more than the successes? And, when I think that you were involved as a player in 2 World Cup finals, you were coaching with Wayne Bennett with England, and you were runners-up in that World Cup final. So 3 World Cups. I think you're the only Englishman to be involved in 3 World Cups. Like, it just, that's pretty incredible. But have you learned more from those setbacks, if you like, or what we, might call tough moments? How do you reflect on all of that?
I think again, it's like, and this is the journey I've been on. It's not different, and you could probably talk to lots of kids as well. So I came from a really rough estate, very poorly educated, and so I didn't really spend a lot of time at school. Came out of school with no qualifications whatsoever because of the environment. There was teacher strikes on, but I also came from a violent home. Came from a violent upbringing in the middle of Salford, where I grew up just outside of Manchester. It was council estate. My mum had a couple of jobs, was barely making ends meet. So I was very, again, and I go into this thing, I was lucky that I had grandparents that turned up and put food on the table and put stuff in the fridge. My granddad bought me my first ever pair of boots. So I was fortunate that I had some supporting mechanisms within my family for aunties and uncles. But my home was violent, and it wasn't a nice place to be around. How I came through that, my brothers. We've had troubles. And like I say, we've both been in trouble with the police, and we both had trouble for being involved with not gangs, but involved in like larger groups of boys. And I got fortunate again. I was good at sport. I was athletic. I had good hand-eye coordination. It wasn't that I was particularly set out to be a rugby player, because there was no real rugby in the area that I grew up in. It was mainly football. But I was quite athletic, and brought up in a couple of school teachers that came round to my house and said, "Come back to school tomorrow because there's a trial on. Go and I want you to send you to this trial." So I got to a place where I just turned up and I was good at something and I enjoyed it. And it wasn't always about winning, like, because I played a couple of sports teams where I was the best player in the team, but we were losing by 60, 70 points. It wasn't that I was fed up or pissed off with the people in the group. That was just something that happened, but I just wanted to be there. I wanted to show what I could do, to stand up for the people in my group. And so it was like me and my brother on one team and losing quite badly. But my background is built like, it's the stuff what they say, like there's plenty of hardship in my upbringing. There was no money. There was lots of violence, like towards my mother from my father. My father was absent quite a lot of the time, but when he was there, it wasn't something that you want to be around. But you also had that feeling that you wanted to try and impress him as well with how tough you could be as a man, as a boy. To look and so that your dad had some kind of respect for you. As you grow up, you realise that those things don't work, and change the way you do things. So I grew up with that. I'm not on my own in that. You look around and I had it good because I had some support mechanisms with my mother's family, the aunties and uncles that came in and helped out, and I got on the right pathway by a couple of teachers that didn't care that I didn't turn up from school, still saw some potential in me and my brother. So I offered a pathway into sport, and sport saved my life in such a huge way. Mainly started through football, and yeah, so you can talk to them those kind of things. And when you read all the literature now, it's that kind of hardship that you've been through. And again, it's the role models that I occurred in along the way. So people that I played sports with, there's some really good sportsmen in the teams that I played in, rugby teams, junior teams. They went on to the professionals, and then you get lucky. You walk into a changing room one time, and there's a bloke in the corner that nobody really likes in the team because he's got a really strong attitude. He's really aggressive, and you sort of connect with him. He's the best trainer in, and you get really lucky because he's the best trainer in the club, and he's the most uncompromising bloke in the club. So that's like discipline in what he does. But everybody sees it as uncompromising. It's not. He's disciplined. He don't put corners on short and runs around the track. He don't put corners when he goes out and does weights. He doesn't do anything that he can't be better at somebody else at. And you get friendly with him. So all of a sudden, what you don't really know is there grows. You find some potential because somebody feeds that little bit and you have to have that seed in you. I'm not saying I understand that now. And as professional sportsmen, you both know it, that there is a seed there. It just needs looking after and watering and being around people to make that seed grow and really infect you.
Thanks for sharing, Dennis. I mean, it's an incredible journey when I reflect, and I see that you went from that upbringing in that circumstance, and you became one of the greatest rugby league forwards of all time. And, for some of our listeners who don't necessarily follow rugby league, you then played in that Wigan team that was dominant. I just remember that team. It was probably, if not the best, most successful club rugby team of both codes of all time. But it's
probably, it was the best. It was the best. I think the All Blacks overtook them.
Yeah.
One time, but it was regarded as the best sporting team in the world for a long time without many games we'd won.
Yeah.
I'd say it's that kind of stuff. So I played 9 years as a professional before I moved to the Northern Warriors, and in those 9 years, I was involved in 28 finals, won 22 of them, and won 6-7 championships as well. So, so like there's 20 in a 9-year period. Picked up about 28 trophies.
I mean, that's crazy because I was actually just.
It was like. Yeah. Only when you look back at it now, you think, "Oh my God!"
Well, I mean, I've geeked out on this before a bit with you, but I wanted to ask because I was reading just yesterday actually about Sean Edwards, and I was listening to a podcast with him, and I was going to talk about that because I think so far he's up to 55 winners' medals, And you were teammates with Sean. That's why I mention it now. I mean, and obviously there's these, these people say you see these, the traces of success, and you've gone from that Wigan team, and you were instrumental in that team. Andy Farrell was, Sean Edwards was, and loads of other people who've gone on to have successful rugby union careers as well that, our rugby union listeners will know about. And you talk about those circumstances you grew up in. Has that shaped you as well and molded you? And can you see, are you not surprised by what's happening in the world of rugby with the guys that you were teammates with changing the game of rugby union as well?
Yeah, again, it's when you're in that group, it's hard to see the wood for the trees kind of stuff. It's that when you step back, like Sean Edwards was driven from a young age, and I think he was molded by his father, who was an ex-professional rugby player, and he was quite obsessive, and so like Sean would keep notes on everything as a player, like all the way through, and I started doing a little bit of that as well, and I did it for a bit, and it was just too hard. It was very repetitive. Sean didn't mind the repetitiveness of it, and he had lots of notes from lots of coaches, and they'll tell you now most of it is drivel. When you look back at anything that you've written. And you all know like this as you're coaching now, because it's like when you look back and stuff that you wrote 5 years ago, you think, oh, God, that's shite. How bad is that? But it's just those experiences you go to and how you teach yourself.
Yeah.
And those things that you don't do well, or those things that work in one stage don't work again. And Sean was obsessive. And my biggest mentor is one of my best friends now, is a fellow called Andy Goodway. And he went on and coached Great Britain. He ended up as coach at Wigan. He coached at Paris Saint-Germain, who were the first French team in the British Super League at that time, pre-European games and things like that. So Paris Saint-Germain came in, and Andy was their first coach there. And he was my mentor. And his moniker was BA, bad attitude. And it wasn't he had a bad attitude, he was just a grumpy bastard. He was like, no, he was like, on a field, he was angry, constantly angry with everybody in life. But we had that connection, and he went on and was successful because he had a drive in them. Sean Edwards are the same. Faz has come out with that mould as well, and there's another lad called Mick Forshaw, who's a defensive coach at Wales now. Well, Mick was involved in that, and Mick and myself and Forsh are the same age, from the same school, the year, the same group. He played for a team from Wigan, I played from a team from Leigh when we were kids, with lots of conflicts, and he was an outstanding individual junior. And his journey, again, is something that's been really good to speak about, because he came into Wigan and sort of failed, didn't make that group, moved on to another club, and then he went on and played for Great Britain when nobody thought he would or would fulfil his potential. Went on to be an outstanding international player, won grand finals, gone on to be an exceptional coach, more so in rugby union than in rugby league. Like Coach Connick, he's coached Sale, and now he's coaching Wales, and he was from that group as well. And I think it's that understanding within that group and being able to call on each other all the way through. And like I say, I was really fortunate. I got with a really good group, and I'll never get away from that. Yeah, I needed the desire and the discipline to do the things. I had people to lean on. I had people around me that joined in. And Faz jumped to the back of that with another fellow called Mick Cassidy, who ended up playing, well, Mick Ben as well. So Cass jumped on that as a young player. And what Faz set out that I changed, the same as Sean Edwards, was that they had this attitude to be the best trainer on the field, to be the most competitive person in the group. And they have what 99% of other people don't have. They were exceptionally talented. I said, you live in that kind of world where even when you're successful and you look at someone, I can relate to Faz, he played in the forwards, it's like you look at Faz and you go, it's not fair. You train as hard as I do, you're strong as I am in the gym, you can go as hard as I do mentally, and you're really, really good. It's just not fair. And that was, but being really good wouldn't have helped him. And I think that's the part of the journey you see as well. What I saw talent didn't give you the excuse not to be the best person in the room at everything else. Just your talent didn't override how much time you spent, whether you short a corner on a laps drill, whether you pulled up short on a sprint drill, whether you went back and repeated some handling drills because you hadn't got it right those first 2 or 3 times. that wasn't acceptable, even for the best players in the team in the world at that time. So that sets the tone where you come out of that and go, there are standards here, even with talent. No standards aren't about how good you are. It's about your approaches to the game.
Yeah, so I mean, when you were talking, I'm thinking of G, because there's so many similarities. When you were at the Bulls, you know, that reminds me quite a lot, and of your time at the Bulls, when you've spoken about people like Victor Matfield, and actually we're not tired, we're going to do more, we're going to push on, and you know, the talent is, as we've spoken about, gets you in the room.
Yeah.
But you know.
No, for sure. I totally agree with you. I think that's a great thing. That's what sport is all about. That bonds that you form, the brother people that inspiring you. We spoke to Jeff as well, Pauling recently, where he said that, you know, it's what you're giving to your teammates. You know, the being that someone that gives energy. You know, not being an energy drainer. But then, as you mentioned something earlier, so and this caught my ear when you said, like, you were very obsessed with the, you know, rugby when you were younger, 16 and 17. But throughout your career, what were the obsessive behaviors you had that helped you? You speak about discipline, but if you can give our audience some example, what are the obsessive behaviors you had that helped you to become the pioneer in the game? You were a forward in rugby league, and what I've heard from you transformed the game. If you can just share some insights for our audience.
Well, I think it was myself and Phil Clark got a sports psychologist involved in our preparation in about 1990, 1991. With LinkedIn, I can't remember his name now, but it was somebody that Phil had found on, like, through a friend of a friend, and we did some affirmations, and we sat down and we made some, and all the stuff with music and words, and put it onto like a cassette. It was just a cassette, and we had a little bit of Walkman thing, and we'd first ones in our group to. There was no music in the changing rooms at those stages as well, but we were going out, and we started warm. We started to look into. Phil had done was involved in a sports science degree at Liverpool University, so he was delving into a little bit of sports science, and we didn't really have a trainer at that time. We had a coach, but we didn't have an S&C coach, or we didn't have, like, the bloke who was the physio that worked in the club shop. You know what I mean? And he used to come in and put an ultrasound machine on you. If you had an injury, any injury, you got this ultrasound machine. That was it. So it didn't matter what the injury was. So all of a sudden, you started to learn, and that's one of those things I became obsessed with. It's like, because I didn't really read. I wasn't into. I'd do whatever was people doing. So when I first started weightlifting, or like I say, I was 18, 19, and it was off the back of somebody else. And then I went and got Arnold Schwarzenegger's encyclopedia, and that was it. And it was not. Now it was probably one of the worst things ever, because it was about bodybuilding. It wasn't about sport. I started doing training, and then I started reading up on nutrition. And nutrition at that time was carb loading. If you wanted better carb loading, so I was eating bowls of pasta that you wouldn't imagine was like, and there was no protein or anything around it. I was just stuffing pasta because of what I read at that time. I needed so many grams of carbohydrate per body weight. Weighed myself, works out. I'm looking at this bowl of pasta. Can't eat that in one go. It's like, and through an understanding of education, then you start to get a recognition of, like, actually, it wasn't right. They were on their own journey themselves. These people. Getting obsessive about how to be better. And that's what tied in with that kind of stuff with, like, if somebody said to me, well, yeah, I've gone to the gym 4 times a week, I'd go, all right, yeah. And then I'd be in the gym 5 times a week, not telling anybody, just to get an L done. I was like, yeah, I'm in 4 times a week as well, but then I'm going another day. That came through in the team as well. So we'd finished our year. So the first couple of years I was involved in it, so we won the Challenge Cup, and then we'd already won the league, or then there was a competition, pro start as well. Like, there was just competitions all the time in the British Rugby League at that time. So they got 4 or 5 cups a year. That's how you win some of it. And we won't win the Premiership. We get knocked out in the semi-final. So the year after, you come back in and go, let's win those other ones, and then win that one as well. And pre-season, everybody'd say, like, yeah, I have 6 to 8 weeks off. And those kind of pre-seasons then, I don't know, it was you, Guthrie, or you, Ben, as well. Like, so everybody used to think, yeah, I'm going to do nothing. 6 weeks, and I'm just going to come back and train for 4 months. And the mindset was, well, if they come back And I'm better now when we start that pre-season. How much better am I going to be when we get to the end of the sprint? I'm going to start my pre-season training, not telling anybody straight now after 3 weeks. And I'll have 3 weeks off. And then everybody started getting on with that. And then it became like, how many weeks are you having off? Well, I'm having 3 weeks off. Okay, yeah. Then you realise that they only had 2 weeks off. Don't they? So you effectively got to that stage where you're recovering then, and then you start to educate yourself again. So how do I recover aggressively? So that's the terms I've always used. It's like, so I train aggressively and I recover aggressively.
Like that.
So recovery is about the fact that as well. So it's not about sitting on the beach doing nothing. It's about, right, so how do I make my body better? What kind of food do I need to be able to make myself better? What kind of stuff do I need to do that's going to keep me active and get me ready to really kick on again, but not set me back? I think it was Floyd Mayweather, and he was talking one time about, he was never always in shape, but he was never out of shape. And that's sort of like, he put it really succinctly there. But we were doing that in 1988, 89, 1990. And I thought, yeah, we were doing that, but nobody really talks about it. It was sort of like this clandestine group that were trying to be better than everybody else, so we didn't really share that. We just,
Dennis,
amongst our group, we just wanted to come back better than everybody else.
That's and then when you're talking like this now, you know, obviously you had Jason Robinson and that team, Martin O'Fire, Scott Quinnell, you know, all these guys, that Mick Cassidy, as you mentioned, all these like rugby league legends. But like, you transitioned into coaching rugby union then, and so how did you go from that high performance environment as a player? Obviously, you went to New Zealand for a bit, you came back, successful everywhere, but then you ended up coaching in Gloucester. How did you transition? What did you take from then? Because I guess sometimes we see guys that are just like, do what I did, or like, you know, and so what was that like?
I honestly believe, Ben, well, from a coaching, and Butterell mentioned it as well, so what I tried not to do as well, so it's only in that first part when I started dealing with 18, 19-year-old kids when I finished playing, I realised that I couldn't coach me. They could not be me. So I had to find ways of making them better. So if I expected them to be me, I'd have stopped coaching them for 2 years because I'd have been that upset with everybody. And what you end up doing is you're always, and my kids bought me a t-shirt once, he said, the older you get, the better you was. And it's the mentality that you forget the things that you've failed at because you want to relive that positivity and think that you never ate badly, you never got drunk, you never stayed out too late. You can't remember those things. You just sort of like live your life to say, no, this is what I did. You take away all the fun and you take away all the enjoyment of that journey that I've been on as well. So I recognized straight away that it wasn't about me, and it wasn't about trying to implement myself on those young kids. They were never going to be me. What I wanted to realize was that my job was to create an environment and facilitate an area that they'd be the best that they could be. That doesn't mean international league players. That doesn't mean they're going to start every week. They just need to get better.
Yeah.
And how can I help them get better? And not judge them on being Jason Robinson.
Yeah.
Andy Farrell.
Yeah.
Me.
Okay.
Don't judge them on those things. See the potential there, and nurture it if you're there, but don't judge them to be these elite players straight away.
I get
facilitate an environment and implement that.
Was that easier to do in rugby union?
I don't.
Because
I didn't start coaching, I don't think, until I went to Rugby union. So I've been Wigan's head coach, and so I've jumped into the head coach's role, and you're trying to develop players out there, kids. So I jumped into it. I was assistant coach at Wigan, and a fellow called Mike Gregory was the head coach. Mike Gregory was an outstanding human being, a great coach. He got MND, and he died pretty quickly from it. And you've probably seen the story on there. I was his assistant coach, so I became the intern coach while he was off having treatment before he passed away. And I didn't really get a lot of support. So I was basically putting out fires and dealing with things that wasn't really coaching. I was working with a team and trying to implement certain ideas. I was distracted with lots of other things of being a head coach at that time when I wasn't ready to coach the team. I wasn't ready for all the peripheral stuff that goes with being the head coach. The dealing with the board, the dealing with sponsors, the dealing with all the other stuff. My managing up was really poor at that time. And it got to a stage where they brought somebody else in. I went back to assistant coach. Well, the dynamics had been broken at the club at that time. I didn't see eye to eye with a new head coach. He didn't have the same philosophies that I had. He didn't want to delve into youth. He didn't want to develop players. He wanted to recruit above local talent, and it became a little bit of a conflict of interest. And I'd done some a little bit of work down at Gloucester. I knew Brian Redpath. I'd been down and I'd done a bit of consulting on a couple of, and it wasn't Rugby Union that I consulted on. It was like basically catch and pass, how to fix and hold players, how to drag players, how to create space as a attacking side of it, but also some tackle technique that was used in rugby league, some like line speed, some staying connected, working together within a contact area, stuff that I got through wrestle and stuff like that. So I wasn't coaching rugby union, I was coaching rugby league, the skills that went with it, and trying to see if they fit within that area. But I went into rugby union. Rugby league was easy for me. I'd done it since I was 13 years of age. So I knew the game, knew what I wanted, was passionate about it, got into rugby union, and it was like, well, yeah, this is a little bit different. Like, the one thing that was massively different as well is that most of the kids that I was dealing with now weren't, and now I have to be careful I say this, weren't like poor working class kids that did what they were told. These were educated kids that come out of private schools, and guess what they did? They asked you why.
Yeah.
So then you had to start justifying things as well. So I'd come from an area where it was like, right, do this, this, and this, and that'll get you that. Go. To, right, this is what we're going to do. And so we'd go, why? Because I said so. So all of a sudden I started to think, right, well, I need to come back here. I need to, and then grow into that pathway. Everyone said, well, I don't know now, but I will find out for you. And I'll speak to somebody and I'll let you know why we're doing this and what's going on there. And so you had to then build some depth. It can't be just run this hard, run this straight, take that there, and this is what you'll get. It was like, so why am I manipulating this space? Why am I doing this? Why am I? So the rugby union kids were really inquisitive. And as a coach, that was something again that went, right, so I need to now be able to give some substance to this, and then they have to build some blocks to get them. So I support, I call it platform coaching. So it's like lots of different platforms. So this is where I want you to get to. These are things we need to put in place to get there. If we don't do this well enough, then that will fracture. By the time you get to there, it'll probably collapse really easily. So this needs to be done well. If we're talking like a tackle technique, it's like about your feet. It's not your shoulders, your feet. Get your feet right. Get your body, your hips right. Get your head in the right place. Then get your shoulder in the right place. Get your arms into the right place. So all of a sudden building these sequences and letting them understand why they were doing those things. And they caught on really well. And that's, again, that became something that was quite inspiring as a coach as well. So all of a sudden when he started giving the reasons and in there, and they go, now I get, yeah, I can do that for you. So started to really have to coach. And then when you spend, and this will be like, more for go further than you, Ben, because when you spend some time in line-out meetings and you spend some time out with scrum coaches, you're like, what are you talking about? It's like, I made a coach rugby, me. It's like, and I've gone into one meeting and it was all about cars, and I've gone to the next meeting, it's all about colours. And what changed? Oh, they're thinking, like, we need to have certain different calling calls. So the coaching,
you and G could have a good conversation about those types of meetings.
I don't know about me, because but that's what I did as well. So I became, Dean Ryan was the head coach, and what I got from Dean was really good at managing up, and he'd been a head coach, he'd been around good head coaches, came from that kind of background, and he was really good with the board, really good with the owners, knew how to coach the people below him, to coach the team as well. So that when I started getting the education from Dean, was like he was really good at that management as much as coaching kind of thing. So Dean gave those kind of things. But then sitting down with Brian Redpath and talking about, because that scrum half role and understanding where the scrum turns and what you expected from the front rowers and what you expected from the scrum. Then sitting down with Carl Hawke and going through line-up meetings and get the ball and keep the ball. And it was like really good part of my education as a coach, because then what you end up doing is you realising that if you're a good coach, you can coach anything. You don't really have to know the game. You have to know the people. You have to then understand and pick the right people and put them in the right places, get them into certain groups to understand how they interact, what they're going to feed off each other, and then understand that the team is not about the quality of players, especially at top end. It's not about quality of players, it's about quality of human beings. You've got to be able to deliver the right kind of attitude that puts you in a place where then your skill and your application can take over.
Gee, I know you want to dive into that, don't you? You want to?
Yeah, I just want to jump in here, Dennis. I think you've coached in rugby league and you've coached in rugby union. You just mentioned now, for example, all of a sudden you got some of these private school boys, and that's not the case all over the world. Just need to state that, right? Maybe it's in the UK, but that's not the case in South Africa. All right. Although I went to a private school, but not all of us.
I was going to say, shaky ground.
The question I have, you have this experience at rugby union, rugby league, and you just mentioned like a certain difference in terms of the mind. But what would you say is the major difference mindset-wise between rugby players in league and rugby players in union, what you've experienced as a coach?
At the moment, there's not a lot of difference. Again, the good ones, like they have, like I say, very fortunate to go over to Ireland when I was just taken over as the assistant coach there. He wasn't their coach at the time. He was working with Smith, and it was like, Joe, and the Irish players, they were just inquisitive. They wanted to work hard. They wanted to be the best it could be. There was very little ego involved in what was going on. It was all about the team, but it was also about their individual preparation, about to make the team better. So how much work they could do, how doing the right thing. See, good players, that's what good players are, whether it's rugby union players, rugby league players. They're really ambitious. They're really driven. They want to be better. It's not about their ego. It's about how good the team can be and what their contribution to the team can be. So that there's not a massive difference in that kind of mindset. They all want to get better. They've all got the growth mindset. They all want to learn. They all want to put themselves in a situation and be around people and be challenged by better players to see how good they are. And that the Irish thing across, and again, most of it is that once we get in sport, and there was no major difference. So I'm working with Mike Tyndall and I'm working with Ian Bolshaw, like at that time as well. They're both from well-educated kind of areas. But their willingness to commit and to drive themselves hard had no difference to what I saw in rugby league players that wanted that as well. So they drank different things in the bar.
Yeah.
Well, we're drinking gin and tonic. One was drinking a pint of beer, but then I said it was still sat there in the bar. So, but there wasn't a major difference, and I always used to love the lads that like say, "How do you think it'd go league?" I said, "I think it'd be Premier League because you've got a mindset to want to get better." You're willing to put your body in the way. You're willing to work hard. You're willing to communicate. You're willing to commit to something that is the hardest thing in the world. Rugby is a collision sport. It's not a contact sport. So if you're willing and you're committed enough to run hard into anybody, it doesn't matter which game you're playing. But also a little bit different at times. And some of the intricate detail has got to be really hard to pick up, especially if you want to play on the flanks or the flankers and you want to play in the front row. They're different skill sets that are hard to transfer, but there's been some really good rugby league union forwards that have transferred into rugby league. This part of the world. I played with Rob Lowe. I played with Ray Moore.
Okay.
Yeah,
so Ray
Rob
Moore.
Lowe,
I was actually coached by him.
Ray Moore. Was you coached by Ray Moore?
Yeah, I was coached by him with the Cats back in the day,
Yeah, so Ray's in the team on
the
wing.
He was fit as hell. It still is.
Oh my God, it was like he was chiseled out of a piece of stone, that ball. And he's a winger as well, and he had the best side step you've ever seen, which, I mean, he just ran straight over people. He would kill the ball and Ray. So they were like lads that played at high-end rugby union in the late 80s, and they transferred that. Like Rob was committed to being the best rugby player he could be. And he came from like a really strong, and he was, like you say, I think he played a little bit of 6 and 7, maybe a little bit of 8, but those skills couldn't transfer to rugby league, but his other skills could. He was a good ball carrier. He's defensively, he knew that he wanted to be committed. So those kind of skills are there if the mindset is strong enough. And I've seen this as well, and I've mentored a couple of squash players, and I don't play squash. And I've mentored a couple of like cricket players, and I was very poor at cricket. But the mindset and the strength of like being committed and willing to work at your craft, it's very, very similar.
Yeah.
And understanding then the pathway to put in place to achieve those things on a consistent basis. And that's what most sportsmen get away from as well. It's like, say, it's people outside of that sport world. They all want to be sportsmen, and they all go to the gym, and they all train, and they say, well, I do all these things as well, and you do it as a job. Yeah, but my life is built on consistency. I don't do it once, twice a week. I do it every day. So to be an elite sportsman, you have to be consistent in your approach, and that's the discipline element again.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful and be judged every single week, not just by people at the park or people at the local pub, but by 20, 30,000 people that are watching you, it's a different mindset and it's a different approach.
Dennis, so there's a quick follow-up question from my side. We know we were all driven by something when we were players. We want to achieve something great. We want to win titles. You want to leave a legacy. But as a coach, what drives you? Because I can see you're passionate about it, And just to give you a little inside story, our defensive coach was John McFarlane. And to get us amped for games, to put in those big hits, he used to show us rugby league clips. So we used to love watching that back in the day. But what drives you as a coach? We all have different reasons. I'm coaching because I had so many great mentors that impacted my life. Rugby has given me this unbelievable gift where I've made so many great friends. I've traveled the world, and we all have different reasons. But what's your reason that you want to be a coach, and why you're still coaching on different levels and different teams?
I want to see players fulfill their potential, and I want to be that bloke that can offer them an opportunity to do that. See, I don't, and I came in that. I want to be a coach that's part of a successful group. Yeah, of course I do. And I want all those things are there and people talk about them. And I've been fortunate because I've been part of big groups. But I think Ben's mentioned it. I'm pretty satisfied. Like I've stood on that podium a couple of times. I've been in a place where I know what success looks like, and people recognize who I am. But it's not that I'm famous or anything like that, but they've watched sport on television, and I was lucky to be part of that group. I don't crave that anymore. What I crave is just when I watch a game, to see somebody do something they practiced and it worked, and the joy that they get back from it. And it's not even a game sometimes, it's in training. To see something come off and everybody go, oh shit, hey, this worked. This is great. See, at this moment, a girl who's never been in the gym before, spent 6 months in the gym, she can do things now that she wanted to do before, but now her body's given her the opportunity to do that because she was willing to listen, because she sacrificed a little bit more time to get in the gym and build a little bit of strength that gave her the opportunity then to execute the stuff that she wanted to do before. Those kind of things as a coach now, the small wins, the small improvements. And like I said to you before, it's great when you walk into a room and you go, how good is he? Yeah. Well, and give them an opportunity to like get a little bit better so they can fulfill that potential. And then sort of sit there and go, got some work to do here, aren't we? And then turn around to you and go, I want to get better, Dennis. How do I get better? And then you see them make the bench, get into the team and play. Like I had a girl last year that nobody thought I should pick. She worked harder than everybody else. She wanted to get better. She didn't have the best hands. She made mistakes in the game. And there was plenty of errors in her, but she went from making 4 or 5 errors in a game to 2 errors in a game. And I said, I can live with those 2 errors because you give me this, this, and this now because you've worked that hard. Don't let's concentrate on how far have you come. She said, but I'm still making errors. I said, yeah, well, you're making less than 10% errors than what you did last year.
I love that.
So if we can get rid of those over the next 2 years, how good are you going to be? So she's on the bench, and one girl she's a nice girl, she's a great girl, believes she should have been in the team ahead of this girl because she was better than she was. Didn't have the right attitude, didn't turn up at training enough, didn't work at the skill set that she had. Still had errors in her, but wasn't willing to change those errors. So the other girl was changing those habits. She was working out. She still had those things there in her game. But she was working out to change them. This girl here,
I love that, Des.
had less errors, but was still making it. Wasn't willing to work enough her game to get better. So she lost her space.
That's awesome.
And she lost her place in the squad this year. So that became the difficult thing about that professional thing is that these girls are, like I said, they don't really get paid a lot. They get some cash and it's a little bit of compensation stuff. But it's not, they're not going to make a living. They're not going to survive on this money. It's a little bit of pay over costs. So, but they work hard, they turn up, they sacrifice. They've got families that they have to find people to look after. They've got jobs that they have to find at school that they have to get to. So they're more professional than some of the blokes are because they have to work their life around wanting to be the better at this.
Dennis, I'd love to.
And when you see what we're doing with those girls,
I'm sorry,
that's really.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there's so many nuggets of what you just said. I think a lot of coaches listening to this can, one of the things you just said then was that basically described that her growth mindset, but also you as a coach have selected somebody for what they're good at and not what they can't do, and you've gone, this person brings this and I think that's a growth mindset for us coaches as well. But what I wanted to ask you was, so obviously and I think people would love to be able to take some of the processes that you've coached the men in rugby league, you've coached men in rugby union, you're now coaching women in rugby league as a pioneer, because it's a new adventure. Are there some processes or just like a couple that you can give us that apply to everything,
Yeah, tears, mate. They cry all the time. Don't worry about that. There's tears every day.
No, but like ChatGPT summary.
No, the comment is there commonality between some of those processes that you've applied to all of those people?
You've got to treat them both completely different. Okay. Again, it's one of those men and women are from Venus. It's that there is that much of a difference. So when you get into it, and it's like I say, I'm very fortunate because I've lived and I've seen the struggles that girls have had with each other because we've got 5 daughters together and I've got different. So we spend time with girls all the time as well. So they're friends of girls, and I've got that empathy and that understanding as well of being able to take a breath before I speak. The biggest overriding thing that I've got from dealing with the women and men want to compete. They want to see who's the best in the room. They want to be the fastest, the strongest. There's an ego element in there, and it's driven by testosterone, obviously. So there's an ego element in that room where you put group blokes together and they find their hierarchy and they compete and they want to compete with each other, whether it be on a wrestle mat, whether it be on a tackle shield, whether it be in a scrum machine, they want to compete, they want to work. Women want to be connected. They want to support each other. They want to get on. So you have to build the group first and then drive that forward. With the men, it's just let them work hard at each other. And then what they do is they find their commonality in their desire to compete. Women have to find the commonality in the group. So they have to get on. They want to be connected to each other. So you're working on the group dynamics, you're working on them being connected, you're working on having a common purpose and a goal before you give them the drivers to be competitive. Where the men, we're going to compete. You're going to get on the mat, you're going to work together, you're going to find out who's got the biggest balls in this group, and then you're going to find out how you want to compete against that group. And he's going to really want you to compete against him as well. That's going to make him better. It's completely different with the girls. And then how you deal with them as well, it's like, can't be as abrupt. You've got to be honest with them, and you've got to put how you deal with that honesty. So you can't, with a bloke you can be cruel and you can be bad, and you can, as a man dealing with a man dealing to a woman, I can't be cruel with my clips and my honesty. When a bloke can take it and think it's, all right, I get it. Girls don't get that. So the language you use and how you deal with them individually, it's a little bit more nurturing. And they want honesty. They don't want you to lie to them. And they don't want it to be like, bang, yeah, that's not fucking good enough. It's like, listen, we need to work harder at this. And what the boys want to get that as well. So that's the mindset shift for me as well. When I walk into that room, being positive, but like not then taking some of that negativity that's there. And then the group itself, because I've had a hard day, and like menstrual cycles. Who'd have ever thought? I was like, so you're dealing with girls, and and then it's like, do I want to know this question? I have to know this question. This question is right, girls. What stage of the month you are, girls? It's like, I'm really struggling. I'm like, okay, then I know why. Because that can affect the training session. It's so those kind of, and I'm trying my best at the moment because when I first went into Wigan, it was male orientated group because that's what we're doing, and they'd like say dealing with the women because most of the coaches that had that period of time had all been men. There wasn't a lot of women coaches coming through rugby league because they'd only just started really playing. It was dominated by men on this side of it. Now my job over the next 5-6 years is to infiltrate that with more women, find girls that are finishing off their playing careers, put them on coaching courses, get them involved with the academy, find a S&C. There's not a lot of women S&Cs around at the moment because of dominated men's sport. So find women that want to push into professional sport or some way for strength and conditioning coaches. So you try to create a different pathway, try and nurture a group of girls and do that not just as a play group, but then as, do they want to be professional? Do they want to go into strength and conditioning? Do they want to coach this team? And I've been fortunate that I've got 2 or 3 girls that have just come towards the end of their career. Now they've gone on courses. One of those girls came out of the side last year, has started working in the academy. And watching her work now, she's got great potential. She's really good coach in the next 2 years. I can see her being into their first team group assistant coaching and probably taking over. So it's nice to see that kind of stuff within the group, and you just hope the women's game keeps the momentum that she's got at the moment. When you see it in Australia, it's a different game altogether over there because of how professional they are and how driven they are and the number of players they've got. You just hope it takes that around the rest of the world as well. So that's a short answer. There's a long one as well.
No, but it's great. But thanks for sharing that, Dennis, because I think, for so long, just sport in general, we never really, given women the acknowledgement they deserve. I coach at La Rochelle, so we've got the women's team there as well. So I can see the effort. Some of them are coming early in the morning to do their weight session. Then they go to work. They come on their lunch break. They do their weight session. They're training late at night after work. They've got kids. And we don't even talk about that, what goes through that process. They are pregnant and then they're out for a few months or almost a year and all that. And I mean, the amount of sacrifices they make. And I've done a few scrum sessions with a few women's team, and I'll be honest with you, it's been some of my greatest moments. I'll never forget this. I was in Lille. It's like 6 p.m, in the middle of winter. Rain is pouring down. They're not even shaking. They're just eager to learn. And for 1 hour, great. I thought they were going to last 10 minutes. And we did a scrum session for 1 hour. No questions asked. Just like, what can we do better? Am I doing this right? That eagerness to learn. So, it's great. I think it's brilliant having someone in the women's team.
And you just brought that on me, because it's like, for the first time ever, like, say, you'd run a training session in a day with the boys and you'd have your set times and all this kind of stuff. And by the end of it, most of them want to get off or do something else. We finished training. I blow the whistle and say, don't girls, to go, oh, another half an hour. Can we not just carry on another half an hour? You're going, I want to go home myself. They just want to keep going. They don't want to stop. But it's like, once they start really, and that, when you get that kind of feedback from them, where it's like, oh, can we just do a little bit longer? Why don't we do this a bit more? All of a sudden I'm going, they're enjoying this. This is really gratifying. And it's like, and you don't get that with the boys sometimes. It's like, right, boys, let's finish. Oh, thank God for that. Let's go. But with the women, it's like, can we do another half an hour? What about doing this a bit more? And you're going, oh, this is great. I think that's it's what real spark back in me, Gus, is really, it's just, I kind of say, 24 years of it, of jumping around. Like I say, the rugby union side of it was outstanding because I was coaching. That's all I did. So I ended up being the defensive coach and skills coach to the backs. So I was working in that, and it was just coach. And it was brilliant. Finding as much as I could. How do I get better? What do I do to do here? How can we set a platform to get this play on and that play on? How can we prevent them from doing these things? So coaching. Then I stepped out of that and my ego took over as a coach a little bit. And it was like, I want to be in charge. And I was never going to be in charge in rugby union as well because I never played. The background was there. There was a possibility if I dropped down or I found a level where I could have been a head coach, and Sean Edwards has struggled with that a little bit as well because he's put himself in that category and he's been that good at it. That's what they want him to be. And I never played the game, so I never had that kind of impetus to be that. So I decided that the way I was going to be in charge was to go back to rugby league. So I started looking for a job in rugby league, and I think it was 2004, about 14, 15 it was, and I ended up taking over as a head coach at Witness. And then I did lots of coaching, but I did lots of other stuff as well that just killed me. It was just, I was just spinning plate, I was working with sponsors, I was making sure payroll got sorted, I was making sure that like the management up was really getting some good understanding of what the team were doing. So it was board reports, it was collating information to make the people above really appreciate what was going on below. But to do that took me time off the field, which is where I wanted to be. So I wanted to be, and then football, they call it on the grass. So that you miss that kind of element of why do I want to be a coach? Because I want to make a difference to not just the team, but to an individual who then can enhance the team. And to do that, you've got to spend time with them. And that's a commitment where it's like, you're on that. You can't just go write them off because I've got a board meeting or I need to meet a sponsor. You've got to commit to what you want to do. And it was one of those kind of pathways and information to players coming out of professional sport or professional. Sometimes you've got to make a choice whether you want to be a journalist, whether you want to commentate, or you want to coach. Some try and do both and not very well at both. Some step into it and then find it really hard when they realise that's not for them, but they've already burnt some in their head. So you can't be both because it's just too difficult. And you talk about it as well, because if you're in a team, you're supporting, you're positive, it's the next step. If you're a journalist, then it's about what they're not doing well, what's going wrong there, why is it not playing well. So journalism looks at the negativity of it. Nobody wants to hear those positives. When you're in the coaching, you can't generate positivity. When everything you do, it's a constant battle to make sure that people are positive. Go a little bit back, Ben, to a question you just asked before. I signed a player when I was at Witness. He was a back rower, and he ran a really good line. He an inside shoulder, he could fight, he could break line, and real good foot speed. Like his change of pace into the line, put him through the other side, 9 times out of 10. So I brought this player in because I needed some penetration on a left edge for a back rower. I, as a coach, then decided to say, right, that's what you're good at. What can't you do? What do I need to make better in you? So I did the list of stuff and what do you want to improve at? And he wanted a pre-line pass and he wanted an offload, post-line offload. So we worked really hard at his pass, his catch, his footwork into his catch and pass, his decision-making, his elbows, where he was. And then post-line, it was like how he could get the ball in one hand, how he could get his arms free, what 2v1 looked like when he broke the line. He was getting better and better all the time. So we ran some pre-season games. Just didn't really turn out. It didn't really give me what I wanted it to give me. And first game of the year, I brought him out and pick him. He came to me after and he went like, why am I not in the side? I said, well, there's no penetration in your run. He said, not worked on that 6 months. But you've coached me how to pass and how to play. And now you tell me the only reason the way I'm going to get on this side is by punching through the line. And I just thought,
yeah.
I've been to that for my own good here. Like I've taken away every power that he's got, got him in that team, got him in my vision. The thing that made him the player he was, all the other stuff that we could add to, we could make those things work as long as this stayed as his superpower. And I'd not coached his superpower.
That's brilliant.
I just expected it. I just expected his superpower. And it was like, and I didn't pick him. Not because of the way I'd coached him, because I'd coached him all these other things. But when I watched him, I wanted his power that I'd signed him for. And it not worked on it. He kept passing the ball before contact. I mean, passing the ball before contact. That's what you coached him to do. And
we talk about that
a
lot. We talk about super strengths and then just finding someone's super strength and knowing what your super strengths are as a young aspiring player and identify what your strengths are, make them super strengths, amplify them.
Go after what's good, talk about what's good. Everything will catch up.
Yeah.
All the other stuff will catch up. You work hard enough at your game, the other stuff will catch up.
Yeah.
But you've got to have an understanding of who you are.
Yeah.
If you're the best defender in the team, practice your defence all the time, and then you get some stuff out of attack. Find that little percentage that makes you a little bit different. But the thing that gets you in the team is that what you want to do and what you love doing. Go and do it. And that's the way I coach them all the time now. It's all the girls. It's like it's all about positive language, it's about positive reinforcement. So finding why do you play? Why do you play this game? What do you want to play this game for? This game's too hard. If you're not here because you love it and you want to do something that's this specific in it, why are you here? Yeah. If you want to get punched in the face, just go down the local pub and upset somebody, get punched in the face. If you want to get punched in the face for a reason, go and play this kid, do this. So the positivity and the positive elements of it.
You two have got a lot in common, Dennis, but like one of the things you both have got in common, and I guess all three of us, because we still like training a lot. And I know you're in amazing shape still, and I've told you about some of the stuff you've been up to and got up to, and I mean, you're still in amazing shape. What do you got?
I'm not a bad swimmer, I'm all right, Ben.
You're a decent swimmer. Yeah, you're.
I'll tell you, God, he's like, we started this swim, Ben went against me at the start. He was like, "Yeah, I've got this." And he gets out of the boat he gets back in the boat about 10 minutes behind me. He goes, "Didn't see that."
Mate, absolute rubbish.
Listen, but that's amazing what you guys did, swimming the English Channel. That's unbelievable. That's wow.
Yeah, no, it was that, and we got the best of it as well because we get to do it when it's dark and nobody it's like nobody wants to do that, and every so like I know Ben puts his hand up and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in first." It's 4 o'clock in the morning. You don't know what you're doing. You've got light in front of you. You're chasing this light. It's pitch black. You don't know what's below you. You don't know what's in front of you, and you just go for it. And that was the best part of the whole day.
Yeah, it was
when I first jumped in that water, and we just went after it, and didn't know what we were doing, chasing a boat in the dark.
It was awesome, wasn't it?
It was good, wasn't it?
It was. It was. It's funny you should say that because I don't know how much we've spoken about it, but that was exactly. I jumped off my boat. Dennis jumped off his. And then we met on this beach called Shakespeare Beach, and we just gave each other a hug. Yeah, we had to wait till 4 o'clock. The hooter goes off, and we're on these steps, and it's pitch black, and you're making out a light in the distance. Jeez. So we both swam in from our boats, gave each other a hug, mate. Yeah, good luck, enjoy it. And then the hooter goes off, and you don't see him again for the rest of the day. Like you're in the middle of the ocean, and it's just it was unbelievable.
Well, that's why I do that. I go, no, I don't know yourself, Gus, what Ben's is saying. But I never broke the cycle. When I finished playing, I didn't stop. It was one of those where I've seen players that go, "I'm done now. I don't have to do it anymore," and they just fall into ruin. My body's in bits. If I don't look after it and don't take care of myself, then I can't function. So my mental health is built on, and that's what I try to push across to the players as well. So this is not what you do. This is who you are. And this is going to carry you through the rest of your life. It's like the training has to be something that you're passionate about, and you have to find that element of understanding that doing something hard is good for you. Doing something that's uncomfortable is good for you, because then when you're in a game situation and there's 10 minutes to go and you found what you needed for the team, you can do those things because you understand that doing hard things are what life's all about.
Yeah.
So that's the part of education and that side of it. And I live the life that I want them to live. I don't want to be this bloke that sits in the pub and smokes a cigarette.
Yeah.
Tells them to look after themselves. And I don't want to be this bloke that stays up all hours and eats junk and tell them how to eat well. So I get that from my own girls as well. So it's never been do as I say, not as I do. It's always been lead by example. If I want them to be good, I have to be good. And I don't want swearing in the house. I don't swear. It's so you lead by that kind of morality, I suppose, that you want trade through the teams that you are. I think that organisations and groups are set in a viral way, and they're infected by a dominant force within that group, and that can either be bad or it can be good. If you're going to look after that group and they look to you, you've got to infect them with good. So you've got to be the virus that makes them grow, not makes them die. So that's the way I like to see that culture kind of element. That my job is to infect
Dennis,
them
mate, I feel like
you probably I don't know how you do. So it goes like, boys, like I can sit in the car sometimes in the training, and I'm like, no. So I'll go with myself, right? Come on, clap my hand, slap myself in the face, and jump out. Go, well, let's get this. And it's the last thing in the world. The last thing I need is because I've got so much like in your head where I want to say this year, I want to do that. You did do that. You told me you're going to do this. How do I get that across, but in a way that gets the best out of them and doesn't put them offside? Slap myself in the face in the car, get out, walk into the room and be like, let's go.
Oh,
Dennis, I feel like we could chat for ages, and maybe if you're all right, it would be great to come back on. I've got a load of questions I wanted to ask you. I know G and I were talking about Wayne Bennett, and obviously you work with Wayne Bennett, and there's loads of stuff we'd love to know about that. Actually, I remember speaking to Sean Edwards years ago when I was at Wasps, and Sean, suddenly became like a big kid. I remember when he said, yeah, and I went over and met Wayne Bennett, and so I'd love to ask you about that and delve into different processes, but we've run out of time.
Well,
we don't want to. Mate,
I would like to hear about Wayne Bennett because I read one of his books back in the day. So go for it.
Amazing. But he's normally the time gatekeeper, you shoot. But yeah,
I got him. I got him as well. I got him at that stage where it's basically your granddad. So you've been coached by this flow. You've got so much respect for him and understand where he's been. So this old bloke in the room who likes a nap, falls asleep and train. His skill is people. His skill is he knows the game. He loves the game. He's like where he played it, where he coached it. So the game's really easy. But he's actually what he's done is he's so into people, and he finds the strong, dominant people within the group. He aligns himself with them. He guides them into places where they can infect other people as well. So his greatest skill at the moment is not just saying. It's that viral thing. He comes in and he infects the group by his whole mentality. And he does that into the best players in the team. And the best players in the team then affect the other players in the team. So Wayne always had this skill, like I say, he don't sit in the front of the bus with the coaches, he sits in the back of the bus with all the players, plays cards with them, doesn't drink with them, he's not a drinker. He loves chocolate, that's his thing. He's a chocolate bloke, he loves chocolate. Somebody buys chocolate. But he doesn't drink with them, but he sits in there, he tells them the stories, he connects with them around life skills, tries to make them into better people. And then if he can, he guides them into being better players. So that his skill is about people as much as the game. Does he knows the game inside out? But a lot of people know the game. They know the game. Like I've worked with coaches that have great technical and tactical skill, but you don't want to play for them. You don't want to commit to them because it tears. So you've got to do it for you. But Wayne's the other side of it. It's like, you can draw on any kind of information to play.
Yeah.
But he cares. He wants you to be successful. He looks after you. He takes you a little bit of inadequacies and he forgives them a little it as long as it looks like you're trying to make him better. So that's what Wayne comes from as well. And you live with the fact that you're actually being coached by your granddad. We're playing Tonga in the World Cup semi-final. It's at Ericsson Stadium in the middle of Auckland. And basically every single Tongan in Auckland is there. There's 25,000 Tongans.
Whoa.
And there's about 500 English blokes in this little corner. So there's a little patch of white shirts with red crosses on, and everything else is red. And they're banging drums and they're screaming and dancing, and it's mad. It's like, it's one of the most, not hostile, it's straight, like, it's exciting. And it's when you coach, and you've probably been there, so you walk onto a field and you go, I wish I was still playing. I wish I could just get involved in this a little bit. And it was that kind of day. And the lads have gone out to warm up, so that it's all going, the feeling's rising. The whole stadium's really electric. It's a semi-final of the World Cup. England have not been in a World Cup since 1995. It's 2017. It's long overdue. I walk back into the changing rooms. Wayne's asleep on the bench. Like, I don't mean like, it's like dribbling a little bit, like really asleep. It's like, the place is on fire. It's like kind of stuff. So like, coach. The lad's coming back in now, and he's like, goes and gets a couple of wine gums, eats a couple of wine gums, gives himself a shake, and then he's on. That's it. He's ready to go. And the next, the lads walk in the room, and he's like, bang, bang, you. And it's like, wow.
That's awesome.
That makes you want to keep having naps. That's what it is as well.
Just eat wine gums. Yeah.
But it was like, say, that was the kind of, and it's just, it's a joy to be around, and it's people more than anything else. Like, he knows what he wants from the group, and but he's connected as well because of his time. He's connected to lots of really strong people that he draws on and brings into the team. There's good psychologists that he works with that does some stuff with some of the players, and his S&C, he's really good. He's like, say, he's welfare bloke, fantastic. So he's connected to these people over the period of time that he's done it. They also add to the environment and the culture he gets. And he delivers, like say, he just gets the best out of people. And that's, as a coach, when you sit there, you're always, say, you're on about like body high, hip high, you're technical and then it's tactical. Where do we need on this? What are we going to do on that? How are we going to find this space to create this space, and what we're going to do there? So you get involved in all that. That's coaching as well. But actually working with the players to then overcome some difficulties. If things don't work, how are they supposed to work? How do they adapt? That's human nature. That's where you've got to really tap into. Like I said to you before, I believe now it's like any kind of game. I know that if you put me in a room with a team and give me like 2 or 3 weeks, and I'd be able to coach that group, not so much on the fundamentals of the tactical stuff that goes on in the game and have an awareness on it. I'll be able to coach that group to make them better. The understanding of how they form habits and what they need to, how they need to speak to each other, and the language that they need to use in certain situations to get the best out of each other. So that's coaching, and that's that top end there. What we do, what we've heart of, is something that we've grown up with and we love. But it doesn't mean that we can't coach other areas. Another thing, and we can't coach other people.
No, for sure.
I think you've seen that in business, haven't you, Ben? More than anything else, you're involved in business, and you see that, and you can deliver that through the business things that you do constantly.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I'm sure you've seen it. I mean, you run your own business as well on this. So that's another episode as well. But yeah, it's fascinating when you get that. But one of the things that I've noticed, I think with sport as well, is because you get pretty much immediate feedback, don't you? There's a result of the weekend. And in business, sometimes you don't get that. And generally, even if people don't get along in the sporting organisation, people are all intrinsically motivated. It might be a different motivation, but they all want it. Whereas when you're in a corporate space, sometimes it's not always everybody aligned and happy, So even if it's an interesting one. I think, mate,
you're driven by outcome more than anything else in business. What I found is the drive driven by outcome.
Yeah,
I give out way at the moment, so that's just something that happens.
Yeah.
I can't control the outcome. What I can control is I control the process. And our process, like you say, are built on like forming habits.
Yeah.
How that's delivered on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then if you ever got I don't have a day off. I have recovery days.
Yeah.
That's this. So we don't have a day off. We have a day to get better again. So that recovery day is like a steam or a sauna, or it's not doing a lot. It's going for a walk. It's spending time with your family. But you see it as a recovery for what's next. You don't see it as a day off doing nothing. You see it as a day getting better for what's next. So then, like I say, you're always working through the processes of how you get better.
Yeah.
And then the outcome takes care of itself.
100%. Dennis, we thanks for your time today. We've run out of time, but it's been amazing chatting with you, catching up again. It'd be great to catch up with you and I'd love to pick your brain for hours about some of the stuff you've spoken about today. There's some real gems for people, and just thanks for your time, mate. One final question we always ask everybody is, it's a bit of a quick fire question, but and it might be hard to narrow down, but can you give us one lesson that you've learned from the game, from your league, union, that you use in your life that you think is like, that's probably a key lesson that I use and I've used in my life?
Don't say things, do things.
I love that. Don't say do. Yeah,
No,
don't say do. It's pretty powerful.
Be active, do it. No, like I say, we could talk about things all day, but they don't create an outcome. You've got to do things. See, and that's with the teams, I'd rather do things badly, but do stuff.
Yeah.
Because then we can correct it.
Yeah.
We can sit in a room all day and point at charts. We're not doing anything, but just talk.
Sounds like this podcast. We're doing it. We're just starting, and then we're going to refine it and get better as we go.
That's it. Just where you never know where you're going until you get it done. You get active. Yeah, like I said,
that's a big mantra for us.
That as coaches, it's like say, everybody talks about it now. You learn from your mistakes. You don't want to make them, but if you don't then you're never going to get better.
Yeah, 100%.
But you're not going to make mistakes unless you do stuff.
No,
Mate.
for sure.
You can't do it. Like, say, put your hand up and say, yeah, I'll have a go at that. And you'd like look like a dick in the room, but actually, now you're a bad dick because you've done something you failed at. No way.
Dennis,
Just be
mate.
good. Just do it.
Awesome.
All right, Dennis, on that note, just say thanks, man. Thanks for joining us on this podcast. We need to, unfortunately, end this one. All right. I'm going to go pick up my daughter from school. So, but thanks for taking this time and sharing these loads of gems. I'm actually looking forward to watching and listening to this again because there's so much you have shared. And like Ben just mentioned, definitely feel like we can go on for hours. But
well, anytime you want. Anytime you want.
Thanks,
Really
mate.
appreciate
it. That's awesome.
all right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks. Cheers, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Ciao, ciao.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks, Ben.
All right.
Cheers. Thanks, Gustav.